Okay, say hello.
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 Hi, everybody.
Hi everyone, welcome to Ziggy's Bookshop. We're here for a conversation between Asha, Elias, and Lian, Dolan. And I'll give you a quick intro and then I'll hand it off to them. So, her mother and reluctant socialite Asha Elias lives with her family in Miami Beach, Florida. She graduated from the University of Miami with a degree in print journalism and worked at Ocean Drive magazine. Pink Glass Houses is her first novel. Lian Dolan is a writer and talker. She is the author of Lost and Found in Paris, The Sweeney Sisters, Helen of Pasadena, and Elizabeth the First Wife. And she's a regular columnist for Pasadena magazine. She's written regular columns for O, the Oprah magazine, Working Mother magazine, and Pasadena magazine. She's also the co-creator of Satellite Sisters, an online community for women, and for many years was a host of their award-winning and top-rated talk show podcast of the same name, which she produced with her four sisters. She graduated from Pomona College in Claremont, California, with a degree in classics, and now lives in Pasadena with her husband and grown sons. So the format that we're going to do is about 30 minutes of conversation, 15 minutes of Q&A, and then 15 minutes of signing. So,
Thank you. Thank you. Let's all welcome Asha to Los Angeles. Did you want to address the crowd first?
Yeah, thank you so much for coming. I live in Miami, but LA feels like a second home to me. I spend every summer here and have for the last 14 years. And I think the community that I write about in Pink Glass Houses is very similar to this community in a lot of ways. And this is just such a lovely bookshop. So
It is.
Happy
Thanks.
to spend the evening at the bookstore.
Huge thanks to Zibby's, an incredible proponent of women's fiction in particular. So great to have it here on the Avenue in Santa Monica. Fun fact, our Satellite Sisters mailbox is across the street and has been there for 14 years. Our post office box. So we feel very close to Zibby's. And it's just great to be here with you, Asha. We share an editor. We share
Wonderful editor.
Yes, that is how we connected.
And we also share a fashion sense, apparently.
I mean, the love of pink and orange, really. I was sure you would wear all white. Honestly, I was like, oh, she's from Miami. She's going to wear all white. Isn't that the law?
So honestly, my backup outfit was all white.
Okay.
But it was too cold.
Too cold. Oh, it's like 8,000 degrees in Pasadena. So happy to be here to talk about your fantastic book, Pink Glass Houses. But this is your first novel. And it came out just a couple weeks ago. What has the last couple weeks been like for you? Is this a dream come true?
It is absolutely a dream come true. And one that some people in this room have heard about when I was just a thought. And this was my pandemic project. I'm no good at sourdough or knitting or any other crafting, but I'd always wanted to write a book. And so this was my opportunity to sit and just start sketching out ideas. The fact that it is here and I'm sitting in front of you still doesn't feel real. So I'm very much still soaking it all in.
It's great. It seems obvious. The book is set in Miami. And when I was reading it, I was like, why aren't more books set in Miami? I think most of us think that's only Formula One drivers and Jennifer Lopez that live in Miami. We don't actually know that actual people live there. Is that what you were thinking when you were looking around for like what should I write about?
When people think Miami, they either think Miami Vice,
Yes.
which is, a great show, but also decades old.
Very old.
Or they think South Beach parties, and that kind of exists, but not for the residents. Like us, the people that live in Miami, we don't really cross over into that world.
Oh, okay.
And we have our own kind of unique lifestyles and personalities and idiosyncrasies. And I did want to capture that in the book because you do see a lot of the Northeast, which is great. You see a lot of small town, you see a lot of West Coast, but I also think that Miami is underrepresented.
It is. So it really made it fun. I mean, I love books with really evocative settings, and you just put me right in the middle of Miami into a world that I did not know existed. So I appreciated that. But you did choose to write a social satire about a Miami PTA. So how's that been? How have people received it there in Miami?
So people were nervous, I would think, when I first announced it, particularly so my children are here, they're in elementary school and a public school in Miami Beach that sounds very, very similar to the Sunset Academy in Pink Glass Houses. So when the announcement went out on Publishers Marketplace about the book, I noticed that the principal and a couple of people were like a little bit, because we'd always had a warm, open relationship. I was always an executive on the PTA. People were kind of tiptoeing around me like, oh, so what's it about? And I had to let them know, don't worry, you're not in the book, which was everyone's first question. You are not a character, and it should not reflect poorly on this school. I actually put in the acknowledgments, this is not
the
about
fictional
my kid's school.
Yeah. Well, you can put that in the acknowledgments, but that doesn't mean people believe it.
True.
Yeah. I
True.
mean, my first book was a social satire about a school in Pasadena, the private school world in Pasadena. And because it was my first novel, I just didn't really think about reader reaction until about 12 to 15 hours before the book release. And I'm like, oh my God, the woman in Pilates is going to think it's her.
And did they?
Yeah. But you know what? Just say yes, because you sell more books. Yes.
Oh, it's
that
about-
is you. Yes.
Yeah.
Did you worry about reader reaction though when you were writing it? Because you went for it. It feels like, I mean, it's sharp, it's funny, it's sharp, it's right there. Were you
People
concerned?
always asked me, and again, from the moment that I announced it, people would come up to me at like a charity luncheon that I hadn't seen in 10 years and said, am I in it? And I'd be like, why would I write a book about you? I don't even really know you.
It's interesting, isn't it? It's an interesting social experiment.
No, I can confidently say you are not in the book. But one funny moment was I received my advanced reader copies and I only had a couple. So I had a copy that I allowed to rotate the PTA at my school.
Well, that's very brave.
And when it got to the PTA president, I saw her receive it at pickup. So at 3 p.m.
Oh.
And then at 7 p.m. she wrote, I loved it. And I said, you finished the book in 4 hours? And she has 3 kids.
Wow.
3 kids under 10 years old. And she just went home and ignored them.
Yeah.
And read for 4 hours to make sure that the book wasn't about her. And she was like, okay.
They had popcorn for dinner that night.
Right.
Yes. What if she hadn't loved it? Would you have done anything different? I mean, at that point, it's done, but
No.
Okay, good.
No.
That's good. You describe yourself as a reluctant socialite. What is that? Because it sounds good to me. I'd like to get in on that. What is it?
I think that I am constantly in conflict with my desire to go out and be a part of the scene and the community and participate in everything that's happening, and be at home in my sweatpants reading.
Okay. Got it.
That's the reluctant part.
Okay. Got it. All right. So the book is called Pink Glass Houses, and there is a pink glass house in the book.
There is.
Why don't you describe that for people who haven't read it? We're not going to give away spoilers.
Right.
You're right. You all need to buy and read the book. Right. But describe what it is and what did it represent to you?
Sure. So Miami, and there's probably some of this going on in Southern California, although I don't see it as much. There's been a huge amount of development in the last couple decades and a huge turnover from this old kind of Spanish style of architecture to these very modern glass houses. And so in the wealthier neighborhoods, it's not uncommon to see a Spanish colonial next to a modern glass house and that kind of repeating itself. So I thought, well, what if I played on that, but made it a pink glass house and played on the double metaphor of not throwing stones if you live in a glass house, and also rose-colored glass, living life through rose-colored glass, because all the characters in this book, whether they live in the pink glass house or whether they live in, you know, a rental community, are kind of fighting.
Oh, rental community.
Are fighting.
So sorry for them.
Are fighting their own battles, and nobody is without fault.
Okay. All right. I love the description of the actual pink glass. I thought, I bet that's kind of stunning. Are there any there?
Someone told me that there is one.
Okay.
Someone told me that there is one, but at the time there wasn't.
Okay.
So at the time it lived only in my imagination. But now I think that there is one, but I don't think that it's very attractive.
Okay. So the book is about sort of the battle for the head of the PTA. Why do you think the PTA is such rich fodder for human foible and ambition? What is that about the PTA?
I think
What's wrong with us, Asha?
What's wrong with us? I think the PTA is like an HOA. Anytime you give a little bit of power to an organization, people will kind of run with it. And I think that another element that happens with the PTA is, and you see it more so with mothers, is that a lot of us, especially this generation of mothers, we started off as career women, and then we had kids, and we either decided to take a step back and raise our kids, or we decided to try to do both and balance career with motherhood. And that breeds this kind of competitiveness among women that can be a little bit unhealthy. And I think nowhere does that manifest more than an organization like the PTA, where we're supposed to be helping our kids and helping our school, and often spend a lot of our time just kind of arguing with one another.
There's a question in the front row.
Yes.
Do you have a vision of what the characters look like?
I do.
The question is, do you have a vision of what the characters look like? This is from her. How old are you? 8-year-old son.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's just go. Yeah, what's your vision of what these characters look like?
Well, I describe them physically in the book, but I do, I see them as these kind of Miami archetypes, and I include myself in this category where, like Santa Monica, we live in a community where we value appearance, and we dress up for occasions that we sometimes don't need to dress up for. And sometimes our hair is done at drop off, and sometimes our hair is not done at drop off.
The main character, one of the main characters, is Melody. She's sort of the story is told through her eyes. She is a transplant from someplace in the Midwest. Wichita, Kansas. Why? And that made me laugh. Why'd you pick Wichita?
I picked Wichita because Jamie's family is from Wichita, Kansas. So it was a place I could research.
So not only your friends, but also your family are skewered in the book. No, well done. Yeah,
That's
well
right.
done. Well
That's
done.
right.
Yeah, but why Wichita?
Because my dad is also from the Midwest, from Nebraska. So I wanted to choose a location that was very different from Miami, that I could speak about with some confidence, and that would have a kind of stark juxtaposition with Miami Beach in particular.
What did you want to impart? Because it is she is kind of deer in the headlights. I mean, what did you think would be the struggle for someone who would just drop into Miami and not know what they were expecting? What does happen?
So I do want to say I love Miami, and it's a very nuanced city, but there are some things that we could improve on.
Yeah.
And we do tend to be a little ostentatious. We tend to live beyond our means, and image is important, more important than it should be. And there are a lot of communities in the United States where it's the opposite. And, respect is earned from restraint and pulling back. And Miami is not a place like that.
Okay.
So I think coming into that community, it is a little bit of a shock to see how boldly people live.
Oh, that's a great way to describe it. Also, you purposely set this at a public school, but then most of the parents are super proud. They send their kids to a public school,
right?
And then they donate giant amounts of money to the public school. Does that actually happen? Like, is that a thing?
It does. It does. And I think that sometimes people feel proud of themselves, like, hey, I'm sending my kids to a public school.
Right. Okay.
But there is a dynamic that exists in the public school, and this is a real controversial thing, where there's a gifted program and a, quote, general education program. And the gifted program, and there's gifted and talented programs everywhere, but that should statistically represent 2% of an IQ population. But in Miami Beach, something was in the water, because it represents 50%.
Everybody is gifted. That's so nice. So nice.
50%. So we just live in a brilliant community full of really talented children. And unfortunately, the children in those programs do tend to skew on the wealthier side.
Okay, got it. So that does create quite a dynamic when the book gets going.
And that's because those are the families that are paying for the tests. And, it is an intentional they are intentionally in that program.
Got it. Okay. So, they're paying for the gifted test?
They're paying for the gifted test because they are private tests.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure it's done here. Well, I mean, again, we had the giant college scandal here in Los Angeles that we're very proud of. Very proud of that. Lori Loughlin, I can't. She's great.
She served her time, has she?
She served her time.
Okay.
She served her time.
She served her
yes,
time.
She did. Yes, she did. Okay, so let me, what else do you want to tell people about the plot of the book? I don't want to step on anything. We have this doe-eyed transplant from Wichita. There's going to be a leadership change at the PTA. What other sort of themes did you want to weave into this book? Able to do as you looked around.
I was really interested in the competitiveness among women that I was seeing and a part of, because I'm still living in this community and I'm still on the PTA, and I thought it was interesting that when our primary goal should be uplifting the children, making sure they have a great elementary school or middle school experience, making sure that their school has all of the resources that they need to have a proper education, that so often we would get tied down and slowed down with little details that had absolutely nothing to do with helping the kids and everything to do with one-upping each other.
Yeah. It is strange, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And, female friendships, the friendships in the book go up and down. I mean, there are some very dark themes in this book, even though there's some laugh out loud funny lines and really sharp observations and characters you're really interested in, but there are some dark themes. But I thought the female friendships in particular were rough. How did you think about that when you wrote the book?
Oh, that's a good question.
I mean, because they're complicated.
They are
friendships.
They are complicated. I think that my opinions of these characters changed as I was writing the book.
Oh.
And this is like a very writerly answer, but sometimes you go in thinking you know how the characters are going to behave and what's going to end up happening and who's going to be friends and who's not. And sometimes the characters just develop their own personalities and do things their own way. Like once you've drawn them out, once they become kind of their own personality, that dictates where the conflict is going to go. And I think in this book in particular, I was really surprised by some of those conflicts and by some of the resolutions as well.
Okay. Oh, that's a good answer. Are you a plotter or a pantser, as they say?
Not a pantser.
Okay.
So
that do you want to explain?
Oh, sure.
Non-writers.
So a pantser is a writer who sits down. It gives me anxiety even imagining, and just writes without just truly lets the story unfold. And I imagine that requires an immense amount of revision.
Yeah.
If you don't know where it's going.
And an immense amount of childcare. I would say.
You are not a pantser.
No, I am a plotter. My gosh, the babysitter was leaving. I had to get stuff done.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember we had Jennifer Egan on the show to talk about Goon Squad. I mean, she's an extraordinary writer.
Incredible.
And she was like, I don't know. When I sit down, is it going to be a short story or a
No,
novel? I don't know.
Egan is a pantser.
Yeah, and I was like, who has time for that? My God, who has coverage for that? So you're a plotter, but still things surprise
I write loose outlines.
Yeah.
I kind of want to know where I'm going to end.
Yeah.
And have some basic structure as to how I get there, but that's it. Everything else unfolds.
Okay. Yeah. I'm the same. I'm maybe a little bit more of an outliner than you are. And the writing process is a little strange. So you did magazine work before, is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
And what kind of stuff did you do for the magazine?
I was doing more of the marketing PR side of it.
Okay. Okay. So was working with an editor, one that we share, and we're being videotaped. So just a reminder, was working with an editor a new and different process? And how would you describe that then?
I mean, Rachel's so lovely and wonderful and encouraging to work with. I workshopped this book heavily before I queried for agents.
Okay.
So that was probably...
So it was completed. It was completely done.
It was completely...
What you considered to be a polished draft.
I mean, as far as I could take it.
Yeah.
And my agent is also incredibly editorial. And so
Okay.
we did a really intensive round of edits together. And so by the time we got to Rachel, I did another round with her. And I mean, I really, and not just because we're being recorded, I thought that her notes were so smart and so spot on. And when you're working with someone who understands the work and understands how to make it better, it's a gift. And it's enjoyable to get into the manuscript and watch things improve and make more sense. And so I really enjoyed that process. I felt the same way with Helen, my agent, where working with her, like she really understood how to make the manuscript stronger. So
Had you been in a writing group or anything to do the
Yes.
draft? Okay. All
Mhm.
right. Because it does help to have some eyes. You said you workshopped it a lot, but I
Mhm.
didn't know what that meant. Okay.
So during the pandemic, Catapult, which is a literary magazine, and they publish under they have their own imprint, and they publish under Soft Skull, which is another imprint. They did online novel generating courses during quarantine. And they were wonderful. I mean, you were able to workshop with wonderful authors. I workshopped, I think, 3 times in a row with Jennifer Close, just because I loved her so much, and her insights were incredibly valuable. And so in each of those workshops, we had a cohort of 5 where we reviewed each other's entire manuscripts twice over throughout the course of a workshop. So we did some really extensive revision together in those classes.
And it's super helpful. I don't know how people
helpful.
sit and generate, particularly a first novel by themselves. I don't know how people do that.
No.
I did an online writing course for both my first 2 novels,
You
that was
did.
in 2009. So where we just had there wasn't any Zoom. We were just in chat rooms chatting back and forth, typing, but I stuck with those writers for
So
the
you
first
did the
year.
same thing.
I did the same thing because I was like, okay, I think I'm ready. I just don't really know how. I've read a lot of books. I'm sure I can figure it out. But also you need accountability. You need to know, am I on track? Are you understanding this? Am I getting the voice?
There's so many blind spots, so many things one thing that's in the book that I will mention is I had 2 of the characters walking up and kissing each other on the cheek, and someone I workshopped with from a different place said, "Why are they kissing?" And I was like, "Oh, that's just what we do. That's how we say hello." And she was like, "I just couldn't understand why the characters were kissing each other." And so it became
Is she from Brooklyn?
She's
from Brooklyn?
She's from Ohio, actually. And she was like, "I just don't understand why these people are kissing each other." And so it becomes a bit in the book where there's explanation and it like recurs.
Oh, that's funny. Okay. I think we're kissers here in California too.
I think
maybe
so
not
too.
every
I think
time we
so
see a
too.
friend, but most times we see a friend. All right, so we'll take some questions. Does anyone have any questions for Asha?
You already asked one.
Yeah.
Jay. You've
It was
got
great.
away. Madi.
So I just wanted to say thank you. As a Miami native, this book represented so much, and I felt like it just kind of, you really encompass a lot of the things that I personally was thinking and never really said. So thank you so much. And I wanted to ask you, like, I also want to tell you that the character development was fantastic.
Thank you.
Because it was fun to kind of observe my opinions and how they kind of changed throughout the book. When you were writing and developing the characters, I heard that you said you had like a structure. Was there ever any moments where you felt like maybe I should were you scared at any time?
Yes.
For sure.
Yes.
A little bit.
Some of them I did pull back on. I think most of my revision with this book was refining the characters. Some who just came on way too strong, and they still do. So imagine, Lian, how strong they came on before. So I actually did pull back, and some I needed to give more of a personality. So I did,
It's easy in that first draft to sort of write a caricature. You don't mean to, and then you're like, oh yeah,
that's how this person is going to be.
Right. An archetype more than a
Exactly.
caricature.
Well, I still wanted to say that although you may have pulled back, I think you did a fantastic job.
Thank you.
It really did. Like I said, it really took you through a whole emotional roller coaster per se, as to what the opinion was. So
Thank you.
that was awesome. Thank you.
I'm glad.
Liz.
now that the book is out in the wild and you're getting reader reaction to it, is there any of that has really surprised you, the questions people have asked you about the book, or just their overall reaction to it?
I'm just surprised when anybody reads it. I mean, that is just such an incredible feeling. I'm like, you did? So I think that is,
And I don't know you?
So that has really sunk in. But it is really nice where people like from other parts of the country find resonance and like, oh, like I had some of these struggles or I had some of these. It is nice because it does feel like a very Miami story to me. So I was glad to see that some people were able to connect with these themes regardless of
where they live.
regardless of geography.
Yes.
So it's not related so much to the book, but I'm wondering, you said you come to LA and spend like a whole summers,
If I can.
and why, you just right here or you just live here?
I don't write nearly enough while I'm here. I just love it here. I love the lifestyle out here. My kids have their favorite activities that we've been doing every year. The restaurants are great. I just, I love to run on the beach, and it's kind of the best summer location for me.
Isn't it nice to hear someone say something nice about California? Because I feel like we
love
just.
it. I would
You love it, it's different than Miami? It's not
very.
like the beach.
There's enough similarities where it feels like home, but the weather's better here.
Yeah, not as humid.
Not as humid. I mean, right, like I need a jacket everywhere right now. I'm freezing, and in Miami, I can barely walk to my car without sweating.
And the people, are they friendlier here or there?
I think Miami is such an unfriendly place, and anywhere you go,
Really?
we're like, wow, people in the bars.
Why
The bar's
is that?
pretty low.
That kind of surprises me.
I think that there's this impression of like, if you're nice to someone, you must want something from them. So there's like there's like distrust,
And
like
that's here too.
Mm.
but I don't notice it because it's it's normal. But I mean, people are friendly enough, and service is good everywhere. I've been.
That's, I think, the most important thing in life is service. It's my number one political plank is service, good service.
And also, this could be made into a movie maybe or TV series.
It's been optioned, which I'm excited about, but there's a long gap between option and development.
That's step one. That's great.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's fantastic.
Thank you.
Who else has an option out here in the audience? Because it's Los Angeles. So yay.
I wanted to ask about Darcy,
Mm.
and I wondered if you had to amp her up. She is a working mom who is rightfully a little resentful of what's going on, and especially the way it's continuing to develop and the direction it's going. But she's like, she's in the right, but she's acting wrong about it.
Yeah.
I just wondered, but I've had that feeling, like it's not hard to feel resentful when you're like, well, I'm just trying to do everything and I'm falling short everywhere, and how terrible it is to feel like other people can just lean into one part of their lives. So I just wondered about your development of her character.
I think you pegged her perfectly. So I needed Darcy to be the character who sparked Melody, our Wichita transplant, into action, because Melody wasn't going to do it on her own. And I think that you said it perfectly. Darcy really wants, she sees that things aren't being run properly. She wants to make a change, but she's too busy. She doesn't have the bandwidth, but honestly, she's also kind of a hater.
Yeah.
So
she is.
Not the best person to effectuate change.
Yeah. I will say that, everyone's a little bit flawed. No one's like, I mean, the judge, I think she's solid.
Yeah, but that's real life. Everyone is a
Yeah.
little bit flawed. I think that's a nice, honest way to portray women. That because because you did such a good job with the character development, it fits in that. It's not, you didn't just write a mean character or a bitchy character just for the sake of doing that. So they're actually 360-degree people in the book. So I think works. I think that works.
I have a question. This one's a little more personal, but we grew up together. And so I was just curious to know if the experience you have being like a member on the PTA, like how you think it would compare to the PTA
Of our childhood?
school.
Yes. I don't think that our parents were like neglectful, but I don't remember them doing any of the stuff that we did. I'm pretty sure.
Zero. Someone has said.
We grew up in Boca Raton. We went to public school, and I think our parents came to like graduation, and like I don't think they knew who our teachers were. It was a different culture. I don't know why. I think about it all the time. I think that things like Pinterest and social media and our interconnectedness has made it more of a competitive endeavor. I don't know exactly what the societal shift is, but
I blame the boomers because I'm Gen X, and the boomer parents that like were raising the millennials, they were the ones that really ratcheted things up. Like it wasn't just enough to bring oranges to the soccer game. Now it's a whole bag of food and the oranges. And then the birthday party started to get out of control. I'm like, Gen X, we were just trying to hold on and do our part. And now the millennials have just gone crazy as parents. So I blame the boomers.
I don't know who I've had this conversation with, but we're like, we didn't have water bottles. Like, how did we drink water during the day? How were we hydrated? Were we hydrated with our one sip in between class a day and our Coca-Cola at the cafeteria?
Yeah, I used to drink out of people's hoses, like just random neighbors' hoses. I know it must be hard for you to hear that as a 15-year-old, but we did. Are there any other questions? Yeah.
Is there something you learned writing this book in your first novel that you would either good or bad that you would look at as you read your next one?
Yes, I think so. I do have another book coming out next summer, which I'm very excited about. And I think with this novel, I held back a little bit because I was afraid to really swing for the fences.
Oh,
believe it or not.
Yeah, wow. Is there a murder in the next novel?
I think I restrained myself. I think I was worried about what people would think or how it would be received. And so with the second novel, I was like, I have an agent and I have an editor, and they'll tell me if I'm doing something crazy. And so I just put every wild idea that I thought was interesting in it. And they were like, okay.
Okay.
And I was like, huh.
All right. What is that book?
It is called The Namaste Club, and it is about a yoga retreat in Central Florida.
Which right there, I mean, who knew, honestly, that Central Florida had yoga retreats? That is a mind bender.
It is very Florida.
Okay.
It has like every great Florida thing that I am interested in right now.
Okay. All right, great.
And it'll be out next summer.
Okay. I can't wait. Oh, there are alligators?
There are. And it's funny. I was having a conversation with someone the other day about how everyone loves to make fun of Florida, and you're allowed because there's a lot going on that, you can point your finger at. Everyone likes to make fun of Miami. And as locals, we get it and we're in on the joke, but there's more to the story. And I'm really interested in like getting more into the story. And the person I was having this conversation with is from Miami. She said, yeah, like the whole alligator thing. I've never seen an alligator. And I was like, what are you talking about? I saw alligators all the time growing up.
Yeah.
All the time. It depends on where you live, but in Boca Raton, they were in our backyard all the time.
Yeah, no, there are a lot of alligators.
There's a lot of alligators.
And lightning strikes. It's the number one state for death by lightning strikes.
Is it?
I say yes. My parents lived in Florida when I was in college in Amelia Island. So it's beautiful. So I was a lifeguard there. And so I had to clear the beach. And so they're like, clear the beach, get the surfers out. Number one state for death by lightning strikes. So if I wasn't worried about the alligators.
And shark attacks.
Yeah, and shark attacks, alligators, giant jellyfish. I mean, the whole place.
There are a lot of critters in this.
There's a lot of critters. There are a lot of critters in your state. That's absolutely true. So was your process any different there for this next book? Besides just putting everything in?
I did it really.
Did you? I don't find I write faster. It's just the same.
I think it was pretty similar. And I workshopped it just as much. The only real difference is that I didn't hold myself back from every crazy idea I had. I just
Okay.
put it in there because I knew someone would check me and be like, that's not appropriate.
Okay.
Take it out. But they didn't. So it's
So it's in there.
It's
All
in
right.
there.
Is it multi-POV?
It is.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Are there
It's
any?
done too.
Pardon me?
It's done too.
It's done. Yeah, it's in production.
So you thought of book 3.
Yes.
Ah.
Is there a murder in that?
No.
Okay.
No. That's
Um,
more. That's actually my grief story. So that's a little like
Oh,
a
okay.
different.
Got
Yeah.
it. Got it. Is there time for one last question? Anybody?
Yes, one more. if you
Yeah.
don't mind.
Yes.
I was about the PTA because being from Miami, I am the only one of a group of friends that doesn't have children, and I do hear a lot of stories, so it was really nice. But did you do any research? Like, was this based on? Did you do any research amongst like, is this the common theme within PTAs? Does this happen? Is this kind of the intensity of it all?
Yeah. So once I started, that's a great question. So once I started writing the book, people kind of knew that I was working on this. I had a lot of conversations of people who are in different schools, and they would tell me their stories. And the stories are stranger than anything I could have made up. And some of them I used with permission. I was like, that's great. Can I borrow this? But yeah, there are some like pretty like horrible things that have happened, unfortunately, and also just like really silly, bizarre things. So
That is good when people start giving you material.
Yeah.
I get a lot of that. Oh, let me tell you about this. Okay. Or,
the truth is always stranger.
It
than
is, it
fiction.
is.
It always is.
Yeah. Or you should write this book about me. Okay. You know what? You should write that book about you.
I read an Anne Patchett essay where someone told her Anne Patchett to write her life story. She was like, I'm smart. I'm gonna do that.
Asha, this was so fun to speak with you.
you
Such
so
a really
much.
fun book, Pink Glass Houses. If you want to know more about Miami or PTAs or all kinds of things, it's fantastic. So thank you for being here today.
Thank you, Lian.
Cool. Thank you so much, everyone. So we have plenty of books up front to purchase, and then we'll keep you guys posted up here to sign.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you.